Hello, so I wanted to do a response to a question that came in, and I'm going to read it for you here so that you know what I'm talking about. So the question is about conflict in relationships, and it says, we would be able to resolve our fights quicker if we had the same goal during them. My goal is usually to be heard. I want to feel like my partner cares about my opinions and feelings, even when they differ from his. He admits that he's generally fighting to be right, and that's when he's not trying to avoid the fight. So while I feel dismissed and I keep repeating my viewpoint, he assumes I'm also fighting to be right, and it gets more and more defensive. We get each other when we are calm, but in the moment, it's like he can't hear literally me saying, I just want you to hear me. You don't have to agree. He usually wants to discuss it later, but with 2 kids and crazy work schedules, it's generally now or never. So here's some things that I want to offer you to think about if you're in a similar situation, or if this really relates to you. And again, use your own common sense here. I obviously don't have all the details of the whole big picture, but here's some things that I think are often really common and that a lot of us get caught in. So the first thing that I want to offer is that I think sometimes when we get into these moments, that really is exactly the problem. It's not just that we have a different goal than our partner, we have 2 totally different strategies. And while this is not totally universal in terms of gender, I have seen in my practice that there are some of these things that a lot of times men and women relate to differently. So one of the things that I think that women are often looking for, and I know that I'm certainly looking for when I'm in a conflict, is first and foremost, I really want empathy. I want to know that the person gets what it is that I'm explaining to them, and I want to know that they understand that I'm coming from a good place when I say that. So first off and foremost, I think really we often end up in a conflict between one person's goal for that understanding, and the other person often has a very different goal. Hey, Paige, has a very different goal around solution finding. And for a lot of guys that I've seen in my practice, they're totally missing and unaware of the importance of his girlfriend's or wife's need for this validation, for this empathy, for this understanding. Because typically in guy world, by the time that they're really bringing a challenge or a problem or an issue to somebody, they're not really looking for validation that their reason to be upset is good enough. They're already fully convinced that they are. So this real kind of nuance, connection, security that women are often looking for, and that I need to know that you get it. I'm not just looking for you to agree with me. I'm not just looking for you to put a strategy into place. I want to know that we're really co-creating whatever solution it is that we're going for. And we can't co-create that if you don't really understand why I have the issue that I have. Whereas I think for a lot of guys, they're almost able to take it a little bit more at face value. And whereas for a lot of us women, we need that safety in knowing that you understand it in a way that I think a lot of guys don't need that level of, I get you, know I'm coming from a good place. So when we look at how these 2 worlds collide, between looking for a solution and looking for an empathy, what I find a lot of couples get stuck in, and I've certainly experienced as well, is when he gets totally confused by why it is that you're coming to him, kind of with the storm of stuff, and he's not really sure what the solution is to offer you, or he's offered you a solution and it doesn't work, right? Because often the first thing before we can get to solution, I need to know that you understand me. And if we're just jumping to the solution, that piece is missing, right? So it doesn't work. We're not ready for that yet. And we don't trust that that aligns with the whole picture that we're trying to share. So what a lot of people end up doing is it's almost like they try to blast the conflict out of the water itself by saying, here's why you should not be as upset as you are. Here's why this is not really a problem. Here's why this is not really a big deal. And they essentially try to just launch this grenade launcher at the problem itself to just take it away. Which, when you're on the receiving end of that, how does that make you feel, right? It makes us feel crazy. It makes us feel totally frustrated. It makes us really angry because I'm coming to you sharing, here's this issue, here's this thing that's really weighing on me right now, here's this thing I want your support and participation with, and they're saying, here's why you shouldn't even be thinking about that. Here's why that's not a big deal. Here's why that's not really a problem. And that's essentially crazy making. So when we switch this in terms of the focus, and it sounds like this person has done a fair bit of this work already, and even just being able to identify the thing I'm really looking for in this moment is this. The thing I'm really looking for in this moment is for you to just give me a bit of empathy and for you to just hear me out here. I think sometimes what happens is when we're caught in this moment of fighting with people, we're really back in our own pattern. We're back in that habit of having our guard up because a lot of times we've had some version of this fight like about 20 different times. So we are back in that place of it doesn't take much to activate that wall coming up, right? Or to activate that grenade launcher coming towards the problem. So I think this is really the shared goal. The shared goal is not so much that particular topic that caused this fight to start. The goal is really starting to learn and practice fighting with each other differently. And so what this sometimes looks like, and so what I think you often hear people saying, right, is let's talk about this later, let's take a break. And while on one hand, that is not a great long-term strategy to take that break and just never come back to it. But I think it is a signal that that person essentially is overheated or overwhelmed, and they do need to stop to bring themselves back down. Now, what they have to get better at is when they've needed to call it and say, I need to take a break, they need to practice coming back around. And I think one of the things that helps to make that safer for them to do is to really continually to do your own work on your own side of the fence, to get clear on here's really what I'm looking for in this situation, and teaching them what this looks like. Because for a lot of people, we can say, I need to know that you understand me. I need to know that you get this. But for a lot of people, that actual language of showing someone that you get it, that actual conversation of showing somebody that you're in this with them, is not really something that they're ever used to having. This is totally a brand new skill, a brand new way of having conversation, and a brand new way of connecting. And so what sometimes is useful is to practice going back and saying, what could I have said instead? And what I've heard from a lot of guys in my practice is when one of the things that makes us get stuck is when she says to him, I just need to know that you're listening. And if you could just say to me, like, yes, this really sucks, right? Or show me like empathy in this way. Wow, that sounds like that was really rough. That actually is really calming and soothing to me. But because a lot of people tend to be quite solution-oriented and really want to be able to offer you something much more concrete than that, what I've heard a lot of guys say in my practice is that that feels so flimsy. That feels so ineffective. I'm watching my girl be really hurt and really upset right now, and you're telling me I'm just supposed to say to her, wow, this really sucks. I see that this is really upsetting for you. Help me understand this more, right? That feels totally flimsy to them. So part of this is going to be an exercise of trust in that he learns, or your partner learns, that over time, that thing that you're asking him for really is enough, and really is that very critical piece of it that's going to make whatever conversation or whatever actual solutions that you come up with for the topic that you are fighting about much, much, much easier to get to once you really get this first piece sorted out, which is each person being able to stay in that place of conflict together. And that has to start to feel safe to do that. So I hope that helped for you guys. I'll see you next time.